the fourth year for Pinta London. How do you see the development of the whole event, and where do you see the future of contemporary and modern Latin American, Spanish and Portugal art in Europe and in UK?
I think that it's very important and a great thing for London that Pinta happens, because it sort of introduces artists of different generations. I think one of the things, obviously, through this special project, it introduces new voices of new generations of artists in Latin America, Spain and Portugal. Yet at the same time, there's always also this necessity, I think, to look back. And as the great art historian Panofsky once said, the future is very often invented with fragments from the past. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we look at the past in a nostalgic way, but the past can be a toolbox to build the future. And I think, particularly in the context of Latin America, there are so many amazing artists, from the 50s and 60s and 70s, and obviously 80s, 90s as well, who deserve to be rediscovered, be seen in a more international way. And I see this with my interview, because I've done a lot of interviews for my books, The Pioneering Artist. I mean, a couple of weeks ago I interviewed the Argentinian artist Luis Tomasello, who is now over 90, and he's done more than 5 decades, 6 decades of extraordinary works. And I think these pioneers need to be celebrated. And I think every year at Pinta one can see such wonderful artists of previous generations. It's great to see them in a transgenerational dialogue also with artists of a younger generation. I suppose it's also a question of memory, because I think memory is a very important topic for the 21st century, because in the information age, of course, the information is exploding, is augmenting, is growing exponentially every day. We have more information, but that does not necessarily mean that we have more memory. It could very well be that amnesia is actually at the core of this digital age. And so I think, for this reason, as Eric Hobsbawm famously said, we need to protest against forgetting. And so, that is a very, very important dimension, I think, of this as well.
You will also participating in a panel focusing Latin America. You will be talking about young artist Adrian Villarroyas. How come that you choose him? Why? What kind of relationship do you have with him?
Yes, we've been working with Adrian Villarroyas, on different projects. I came across him. He had this amazing show, What Fire Has Brought Me. This was happened in Buenos Aires in 2008, and it was Adriano Pedrosa, and through him then also Jens Hoffmann, who pointed out to me the urgency of looking at his work. And so we met with him, around 2009, and ever since, have been in an intense dialogue. And I'm very fascinated by the way how he actually, rediscovered clay, has developed a whole language in a sort of very complex world out of one material, and has also produced these extraordinary sculptures which have a limited lifespan, sculptures which have an entropy built in them, and yet he's also trained as an architect. He has a background as an architect, so these are not only sculptures, they're gigantic sculptures which are also, it's possible to go inside, it's possible they're also architectures. And I think one of the things is this aspect of the immersion, even with Adrian's projects in exhibition spaces, like as of recently as part of the Expo 1 in New York, which we conceived with Klaus Biesenbach. He developed this extraordinary sort of multi-directional amphitheater where it's basically obviously a new structure. It's just open, yet it looks also like a ruin. And so in some kind of way, it very connects to what I mentioned before about the past, the present, the future, because in some kind of way, his work exists in these different, temporalities. I'm also very interested in his connection to literature, his connection to science fiction, his amazing drawing practice. I really think that he's what one could describe a kind of a complete artist, and we look very much forward to the exhibition at the Serpentine Gallery, which we will organize later this year, and I will talk today a little bit here at Pinta about his work at large, and his practice and how it evolved and changed over the last couple of years. Because I think one of the things which is so amazing is that after his work with clay, he has now discovered the material of brick, and he's started to be very involved with the brick farm in his hometown Rosario, on the outskirts of Rosario, and he's actually producing work in this very archaic, brick factory. And these will be a couple of things I'm going to talk about today. I mean, obviously, I'm interested also where Latin America goes then in a generation after Adrian. And we're doing this other project at the Serpentine 89 Plus. It's a project which I co-founded with Simon Castells, and which we are now going to do also as the Serpentine Marathon. It happens always, the marathon happens always as part of the pavilion. Julia Payton-Johns, the Serpentine director, founded the pavilion in 2000. And when I arrived in 2006 as co-director, we started to bring together the marathon and the pavilion, and so this year it will be the 89 Plus Marathon. It's this project 89 Plus, which Simon Castells and I founded to map the first generation of artists who actually grew up with the digital, the first digitally native generation of artists, and it will involve such extraordinary artists also from Latin America, like Domingo Castillo, who is based in Miami, and he is a great new voice. I think and there will be a whole polyphony of many different artists and also scientists and architects of that new generation. And the project will be co-curated, by Simon and me together with our head of programs, Jochen Volz, and will happen during the Freeze Week in October, the Freeze Weekend. So we hope to all see you there.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.